The Sun Devils are running the Big 12 in recruiting right now, but they may be in for a rude awakening.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. My name is Richie Bradshaw, and I will be your guide for all things Arizona State Sun Devils football, from the gridiron to the hardwood and everything in between. Today's episode is brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use the code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. All right, so here's the thing. On today's agenda, the Big 12, they're starting to catch up to ASU in recruiting. But don't worry, ASU has a very interesting summer coming up. And how's everything going to end? All of that is coming up on today's show. Before we get started, I want to say a thank you to all of you for making Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day, and provide a special shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Recruiting, the backbone of college football. If you can't do it, you're just not going to win. There's other ways to build your team, thanks to the transfer portal and thanks to NIL. But at the end of the day, it is all about your ability to recruit these kids out of high school. Arizona State, they're doing a pretty darn good job right now. They are bringing in high quality kids for visits, which something they weren't doing previously. And they're getting guys to commit and hang on. Jake Fette by himself is one of the best catches that the Sun Devils have had on the recruiting trail in the last several years. And he's unwavering. And they have several other 4-stars that are in this class right now. We'll talk about them a little bit later. So ASU right now, because they are figuring out what they're doing with recruiting, and it's great news and everything, they are atop the Big 12 in their recruiting rankings, according to our friends at 24/7 Sports. My goodness. Look, you can use whatever recruiting platform you want. ESPN, On3, and Rivals are becoming a conglomerate together. I'm not sure if that's already happened or not. I just like to use 24/7. ASU currently has 18 commits. They are at 202.33 for their overall ranking. Now, I don't really care about the ranking personally, but the reason I bring it up is because Kansas is number 2 in recruiting in the Big 12 with 202.32. So you're separated by 1/100th of a decimal point between Kansas right now with the same number of commits. Behind them, third place is BYU. BYU doing some insane things right now. Fourth is West Virginia, because that absolutely came out of nowhere. And then TCU is currently fifth, and TCU is doing some phenomenal stuff right now in their own right. So when we look at these recruiting classes that ASU is going up against, I think the first thing that we can note is, sure, there may not be one flagship school in the Big 12, right? ASU is trying to advertise themselves as such. Kansas State, Oklahoma State, Texas Tech, Baylor, TCU, they've been long-standing programs in the conference that are good more often than not, but only TCU is currently in that top 5 right now. Now Baylor's not far behind. Neither is Texas Tech. But it is weird to see Kansas ahead of those two. K-State's a little bit further down that list, believe it or not. Utah, who is suddenly one of the betting favorites to win the conference from our friends over at FanDuel, they're really low in the Big 12 as far as the standings go for their recruiting. It's not looking like it's going to be very predictable for how everything is going to shake out. So ASU being atop the rankings right now, that makes sense. They're the reigning champions, all that good stuff. But that could change very, very quickly. Like I said at the top of the show, they may be in for a rude awakening because it felt like ASU has been able to dictate the pace of recruiting for most of the cycle. Now, them and Kansas have been neck and neck. At the end of the day, it does feel like ASU, in terms of football, probably has a little bit more of a leg up than the Jayhawks do. You gotta call it what it is. But Kansas is recruiting at a very high rate right now. 18 recruits. They are still in on a handful of players as well. They have dominated in-state recruiting. They have dominated it. They actually plucked the number one recruit in the state from Manhattan, which, by the way, is where Kansas State is located. They're doing awesome things right now. West Virginia, they are on a crazy surge right now. Do you know how many commits West Virginia has? I'm going to give you just a second. Do you know how many commits West Virginia has as of June 25th at 9 o'clock in the evening? That's enough time to think. 22. West Virginia has 22 commits. Yeah, 3 stars, 5 stars, whatever. That is really, really big. That's a huge class. So it's not a wonder that they're climbing up the rankings as quickly as they are. BYU, they're going absolutely bananas right now. In case you missed the big news, 5-star quarterback Ryder Lyons is committing to the program, one of the highest rated recruits in program history. Really interesting conversation that me and Drake Toll had yesterday in a crossover with Locked On Sun Devils and Locked On Big 12. So go and check that one out if you have not yet already, if you're curious about my opinions on Ryder Lyons and his fit with BYU. But it's not just him. They got 4-star tight end Brock Harris, who's another one of the top recruits that they've had in quite some time. Those two alone are propelling BYU up the standings. They have 14 commits, and it stands to reason that it might get better. TCU, they're doing a really good job bringing in 4 stars right now. I want to point out that Baylor is currently the leader in the Big 12 in terms of 4 stars as far as composite rankings go, according to 24/7 with 4. They are doing a great job. Oh, one more thing with BYU. Their average recruit is 88.05 on the little composite scale rankings. That is higher than everyone else. That is the highest in the conference. Now, that's definitely inflated because of Ryder Lyons alone, let alone with Brock Harris. But last I checked, that's your average. Don't forget about Houston, by the way. They're really low. They're currently 13th, and that's including 5-star quarterback Keyshawn Henderson, who has effectively shut down his recruiting permanently. They are trending towards 4-star receivers to pair with him. They are crystal balled. If you're not aware, with 24/7, a crystal ball little notification essentially means like, hey, we've got a really good feeling, if not like insider information, that this is where this kid is going to commit. Now, they're not always true because Ryder Lyons was crystal balled to USC for the longest time, and we just saw how that went. But it's not nothing. That is very notable for Paris Melvin Jr. They're also in the top 3 for Jaden Warren. Both of those are 4-star receivers. I imagine both of them would really like to play with Keyshawn Henderson. So keep an eye out on Houston because there's a chance that they're going to sneak up here on the rest of the conference. But as of right now, the Big 12 as a whole with its recruiting is just so intriguing. It really does have my entire focus. Not even so much like ASU as we're hoping they finish things out strong because that's where we all should be focused is our own program. But I find myself watching the rest of the conference and I'm like, how's Kansas going to finish up? Can BYU build some more momentum? I just mentioned Houston, but Houston really is intriguing to me. It wasn't before with Keyshawn Henderson, but then Parker Ainsworth from Locked On Cougs, which is the Houston podcast. If you're looking to sit down and check that one out, go ahead and check out Parker Ainsworth with Locked On Cougs. Pointed out that they're in on those receivers. I took a look for myself, and I'm like, well, I'll be golly gosh darn goshed they are in on some kids. So right now, I say this, and truth be told, I don't know if I fully support the comment I'm about to make, but it does feel like ASU's kind of treading water right now with recruiting. They just landed a kid, edge rusher Mikey Williams, and I think that's going to end up being a really, really solid pickup for the recruiting class. If for no other reason than he's an edge rusher, and ASU needs to really stock the coverage right now at the edge rushing spot. We will have a conversation down the road about the positions that ASU needs to address for 2026 and beyond. But we're going to talk in a second. I don't know how much more room to grow this recruiting class there is. And there is a pending decommit that's going to hurt. So ASU, really good class right now. There is a very, very real chance it does not do any more significant growing. And that's going to make this upcoming summer very, very interesting. That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let's talk about our friends over at Monarch Money. If you ever wish that managing your money was easier, well, with Monarch Money, it can be. Whether you're growing your savings, planning a big purchase, whatever that might be, Monarch puts you in the driver's seat. It's like having your own personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control of your finances, because Monarch Money is more than a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, all your investments, and all your spendings in one place. So in addition to managing money, you're also building your wealth. Look, if you have heard me talk about Monarch Money before, then you know that sometimes I spend a little too much money on my to-go food services. Bring it to me, I don't want to go. It stacks up really quick. I did not realize until Monarch Money sat me down and said, hey, this is getting in the way of building the wealth that you are trying to build. So I took control of my finances with Monarch Money, and now you can too. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thanks, as always, for tuning in to Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Where is ASU with recruiting right now? I said they're treading water, and I don't want to fully lean into that. But it kind of feels like ASU's not really going to go anywhere at this point in time. It feels like ASU has pretty much arrived at their final stop. And that's not a bad thing. ASU currently has a top 30 recruiting class. Now, it's dropped off quite a bit. They were just outside the top 10 a couple of weeks ago. Things change, especially because the 2026 recruiting cycle is nearing a conclusion. The vast majority of these kids are going to be making up their mind before the season starts. And newsflash, we're almost done with the month of June. So a lot of these big decisions are going to be finalized very, very soon. So ASU right now, 18 kids in the class, except there's not. If you don't know, this is another thing that I talked about earlier this week. So if you're looking to catch up on shows, definitely go check that one out. ASU has a policy. Kenny Dillingham has a policy. When you commit to Arizona State University and the Sun Devils football team, you are committed. That means no taking visits to other programs. Okay, that's a big deal. You are only as good as your word is basically the way that this program is operating under that kind of stipulation. Nalin Scott, 4-star receiver, one of the big fish that ASU landed, took a visit to Nebraska this past weekend. That's a no-no, but it's Thursday, and he still has not decommitted. So I don't know what's going on. What I do know is that's against ASU's policy. That's one of the reasons why 4-star tight end Israel Briggs decommitted from ASU, and he committed to the U. that's a big deal for Kenny Dillingham. And until further notice, I'm not going to include Nalin Scott in this recruiting class because that's just the way that things have been. And I don't know if he's the guy to bend that rule at all. But I guess we'll wait and see. In the meantime, ASU is still in the hunt for a handful of kids. There are 2 4-stars that ASU is currently in on. And when I say in on these kids, I mean they have the warm status attributed to them from 24/7. That warm status essentially means that, like, hey, these kids are starting to look into their final options and their top schools, and ASU is being included in them. So we've got 5 3-stars and 2 4-stars that ASU is in hot pursuit on. Let's start with 4-star tight end Landon Miree, because Miree has been heavily, heavily linked to ASU for a while now. Now, what's interesting is he has currently got that crystal ball status to Florida State, which does not really line up with what seems to be going on behind the scenes with Miree. But we'll wait and see. As of right now, he is announcing his commitment on July 11th, so that's really not that far away from now. It will be down between Florida State, Baylor, Washington, and Arizona State. And if I'm to believe what I have seen, and if I am to believe what 24/7 has on their crystal ball, then it's probably a 50-50 between ASU and Florida State. ASU is really hoping to land Miree right now. I'll tell you what. The other 4-star they're looking at is edge rusher Landon Barnes. This is, I won't say it's a must, but like I said earlier, when we talked about Mikey Williams committing to ASU, he filled a massive need in the recruiting class and for the future of the program as an edge rusher, because ASU, after the 2025 season, they're losing 4 of their top edge rushers. Clayton Smith, Prince Dorbaugh, Elijah O'Neal, and Justin Wadley will all be out of eligibility. They're seniors, they are graduating, they're moving on. That leaves Roman Petrie and some other guys who are currently working their way onto the roster and whatever the recruiting class has. Julian Hugo, a 4-star edge rusher, is currently scheduled to join that team. And then they'll probably have to add guys in the transfer portal. So Landon Barnes is going to be pivotal. But my goodness, do you have competition? Good news, you're in his top 6. Bad news, you're competing with Ohio State, Georgia, LSU, Ole Miss, Washington. If you're stacking ASU up with those 6 teams, they are 6th. It just is what it is. As for the other 3-stars, you have 3-star edge rusher Chris Addison, look, another edge rusher, but crystal ball to Florida State. ASU is competing with Florida State, Michigan State, UCLA, and Tulane. Good for Tulane. 3-star interior offensive lineman, Mr. Primus. I still don't know how to pronounce his first name. I do apologize. I am not willing to butcher it at this point in time. He is down to his top 8 schools, including ASU. You also have Washington, Houston, Utah, TCU, Vanderbilt, Texas Tech, and USC. Very, very good chance he stays in the Big 12. 3-star defensive lineman Marcus Almada is also crystal balled, this time to UCLA. He is making his commitment tomorrow, Friday. That's going to be one to watch for ASU because the defensive line in general just needs reinforcements. But he is down to ASU, UCLA, Maryland, Virginia, and Stanford. Currently crystal ball to go to UCLA. The other 2 guys to mention are 3-star corner Razjan Duncan, down to Arizona State, Washington, UCLA, and U of A. And then there's 3-star linebacker Isaiah Tokyo. He's down to ASU, Washington, Cal, and UCLA. Tokyo has been linked to ASU for a while. He has been one of the top targets for ASU for a while. There seems to be a lot of smoke to that fire, and I wouldn't guarantee commitment. In fact, I wouldn't guarantee any commitments at this point for ASU. I truly think that there is a realistic chance you're done and then you lose another recruit. It's not ideal. It really is not. But I do like the possibility that Tokyo will commit. I still feel really good about Landon Miree, but we'll wait and see. I really do with Miree. Even with that crystal ball to Florida State, I mentioned earlier, it's not everything. It does mean something, but it's not everything. I feel really, really good for Miree. I think Tokyo ASU has a really good shot. The rest of it, I'm doubtful. I think a dream scenario here and a realistic scenario, because you're not landing these final seven guys. I think it's going to be Miree, Tokyo, and Rasjan Duncan, and an outside shot for Barnes. But again, of those top six, I just feel like ASU is sixth, man. I don't know. How's everything going to end? That's coming up next on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I got to talk to you about our friends now over at Rugiant. Guys, you've heard of Viagra, you've heard of Cialis, maybe you've tried them, you're looking for something beyond the usual pill. It's time to meet the Rugiant Ready. Rugiant Ready is a next-gen prescription treatment designed to amplify arousal in the brain and boost blood flow. Unlike the usual pills that can take hours, Rugiant's 3-to-1 formula dissolves under your tongue, kicks in fast, on average in 15 minutes. Effects can last up to 36 hours, so you can stay confident and in control when the moment is right. I love that to sign up for it, it's completely online, and you are connected with a board certified doctor, and they ship the treatment discreetly to your door. Nothing better than that. Head to Rugiant.com/locked on college. Use the promo code locked on college to get 15% off today. That's Rugiant, RUGIET.com/locked on college, and use promo code locked on college for 15% off. Individual results may vary with prescription treatment. Compounded drugs are permitted to be prescribed under federal law, but are not FDA approved and do not undergo FDA safety, effectiveness, or manufacturing review. Please visit the Rugiant website for full safety information. Thanks again and again and again and again for tuning in to make Locked On Sun Devils your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. So, how is all of this going to end? Well, that's a very good question, and I'm glad you asked, because I don't know. I don't know how this is all going to end. Like I said, as we wrapped up the last segment, ASU currently has 18 commits as of late Wednesday night. I think the Nalin Scott decommitment is pending. I feel like we're waiting for that shoe to drop. Could something change? Sure, something could change. Something could always change. Until it happens, though, I feel like we're just kind of waiting for it to happen. Certainly, that's what I'm doing. I'm waiting for this thing to happen. You're just kind of like, when's it coming? When's that fastball coming down the plate? So, pending that eventual decommitment, that's going to take ASU down to 17 commits, and that's going to take away one of their biggest, best, highest profile commits that is on the team right now. Scott is the fourth highest recruit from 24/7 per their whatchamacallit, their personal rankings. He is number they don't have him ranked nationally. What I can tell you, he's the number 72 receiver at the position compared to the guys ahead of him, Jake Fette, Carde Mack, Julian Hugo, who are all inside the top 36 for their respective positions. That's going to be a big time blow. So that's not ideal. And if we were to give ASU my dream scenario, which is 3 recruits and hopes for Landon Barnes, right? Those 3 get you to 20. Hopefully, fingers crossed, toes crossed, whatever. Do a rain dance. It could get ASU to 21. If we're just going off of who I feel confident in, ASU will have 5 4-star recruits. They currently have Jake Fette. We mentioned Carde Mack, the running back, Julian Hugo, the edge rusher, tight end Hayden Vercher, and then the addition of tight end Landon Miree. Now, it is worth noting, sometimes when it comes to these rankings and stuff like that, 4-star, 3-star, 5-star, however many stars, that can be cherry picking from different websites. And you better believe that I do that because it's fun. At the end of the day, though, one of the nice things that 24/7 has is their composite rankings, where they essentially kind of average out everywhere else. Well, with the composite rankings, ASU only has 2 4-star players on the composite ranking, which is Jake Fette and Hayden Vercher. For what it's worth, when corner Jalen Williams, he's going to be a nickel, more than likely. That's where he's projected to be. Nickel corner Jalen Williams. Try again. Jalen Williams. When he committed, he was a 4-star on Rivals. He is no longer a 4-star on Rivals. I don't know what happened. He's consensus 3-star everywhere. So I've been recruiting. I've been placing him in my in my conversations when I say ASU has X amount of 4-stars. He's not there anymore. He just isn't. So unless nothing changes, you're looking at a pretty decent class. It's not as good as it could have been. It's still good, but you need to hit those last few guys. With my dream scenario, 20 recruits, that's a rock solid class. That is more than a handful of 5-star, or more than a handful of 4-stars. You would have 5 4-stars, and then some really talented guys throughout the rest of the class who could find impact very early on in their career. There's a lot of competition, man. There really is. Kansas, I think right now they are the biggest contenders, not only because they're right behind you with their total amount of commitments. Both of them are at 18, but Kansas does not have a guy decommitting as far as I know. They still have 3 more guys with the warm status who could commit. They have 4-star tight end Ian Premer, might be Premer. I think it's Ian Premer as their top guy. We'll see what happens there. BYU has 8 kids with the warm status. They are crystal balled right now. 3-star corner Jackson Gates. The other 7 players are also 3 stars, but this program has 14 commits, and they're the number 3 in the class. They land a handful of those guys, and they're going to shoot up. They have a chance for number 1. West Virginia, 22 commits. They are still in the hunt for 5 more guys with the warm status, including 4-star wide receiver Jason Lopez. They could also just find their way to the number 1 recruiting class in the Big 12, like we all predicted. Crazy how that stuff can change. And then TCU still in the hunt for 8 kids with the warm status. They already have 3 4-star kids. They are still in the hunt for 4-star receiver Jaden Warren and 4-star running back Ashton Rowden. I mentioned earlier, keep an eye on Houston. I don't think Houston can catch ASU for the number 1 spot, but they're going to be a lot higher than 13 if they land any of those receivers or anyone else that they are going to be in on. How ASU finishes the cycle is going to be very, very interesting. Calling it steep competition would be an understatement. And I want to address this before we wrap up this show, because I know a lot of people are going to go to the comments and are going to say, well, Richie, it's not the end of the world if we don't have the number 1 recruiting class in the Big 12, right? It's just numbers. We want to see what happens on the field, this, that, and the other. I agree with you. I really, really do. But there is intrinsic value in having the image for these kids to look and go, wow, ASU just landed the best recruiting class in the Big 12 conference. If I'm going to go to the Big 12, I want to go to ASU. There is an image that does resonate with 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that they want to come to your university. Now, the good news is ASU is doing a lot of other stuff right off the scenes. Nothing bigger than winning football games and winning a conference. And they got a great staff, and they got a great university with all sorts of different academic opportunities, several other sports if they want to be a multi-sport athlete. There's so much to offer at Arizona State. So there is a lot that they're doing right, and that's one of the reasons why the recruiting has seen such a nice uptick. It is not the end of the world. You are correct. It's not the end of the world if ASU does not finish with the top recruiting class in the Big 12. Pending something completely unforeseen, ASU is still going to have one of the best recruiting classes in the Big 12. And that's being done without some heavy lifting by a five-star quarterback. Although Jake Fette is pretty dang good, and I'm still so curious if he can get there. He's a really high four-star right now. But, that remains to be seen. This is just a fascinating next few months that are coming up. We've got a lot of time, though. I mean, signing day is not until December. These kids can still swap their stuff around after that. There's a lot of time between now and the end of the year for these things to change. But the next few months, really just the end of the summer, going to be very telling for ASU. Did recruiting slow down, or did everyone else catch up? What went wrong for ASU? How's ASU going to finish? Are they going to be okay? Where do they finish ranked? We have a lot of questions, and all of those are going to be answered hopefully sooner rather than later. But when we get those answers, you better believe that we're going to talk about them here on the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. How do you feel about Arizona State Sun Devils recruiting right now? Are they going to finish first in the Big 12? And who is your favorite recruiting class that is not the Sun Devils? Let me know in the comments. You can hit me up on Twitter at Richie Bradshaw36. The podcast is available at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. You'll get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning into Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. You guys are the best. Wouldn't trade you for anything. We still got lots to keep you updated on with recruiting, especially over the next month. But we're inching closer to the start of the season. It's just about 2 months away. And I'm thinking we might have to start making some predictions for the upcoming season, looking at upcoming games, and sitting down with other Big 12 hosts. That's all coming up on the show, and I'll catch you next time. Till then, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.